Hey everybody, it's Mark again, and I hope everybody's doing great. I hope everybody's learning from my videos. I hope you're enjoying my videos. Um, Today, we're not going to work on a clock, we're just going to discuss a clock. A friend of mine, a really good friend of mine, and I were discussing what it would take to take a movement out of a Seth Thomas Sonora clock. I've never worked on a Seth Thomas Sonora clock. My buddy gave me the Seth Thomas and this other guy who made Sonora uh, items, gramophones, and other things, I believe, um, got together and created the Seth Thomas Sonora clock. An official Seth Thomas Sonora clock has bells in it. Well, I guess Seth Thomas got tired of paying this guy or something, and he took the and decided that he was going to do it on his own. So instead of bells, there are rods. It has the same movement. It takes two movements, and it has the same movements as the Seth Thomas Sonora clock, but instead of bells, it has chiming rods. And I guess this guy sued Seth Thomas. I'm not really for sure the results um, of the lawsuit, but Seth Thomas sold clocks with the Sonora movements, but not the bells. An official Seth Thomas Sonora clock says Sonora on the dial, and it has bells. Um, I don't believe they make a 2 bell or a 1 bell. I believe the minimum is 4 bells because it's Westminster chimes, which takes either 4 gong rods or 4 bells. And then they made a 5 bell, a 6 bell, and an 8 bell. And I think the 8 bell is most bells that they made. A 4 bell clock will run you on the average around $400. You can get them cheaper. And then a 5 bell clock on the average is going to be $500. And then when you're talking 6 and 8 bell Sonora clocks, it can be quite expensive. One of my group members, Michael Georgia, he collects Seth Thomas Sonora clocks, and he has almost every model that they made. He even has a pre-model, and I will have to look in my group, and maybe I'll add a picture of the pre-model. Anyway, we're going to look at this clock. My friend, he gave me the clock for helping him out. My friend gets really lucky. He was able to purchase this clock for $50. That is unheard of. A 4-rod Seth Thomas offshoot of the Sonora clock runs on the average of $250 and up. So for him to get this working clock for $50, he is a very blessed man. So don't forget to subscribe to this video. give me a thumbs up, leave me some comments, and let me show you the clock. This is the clock. It's a Mantle Clock. It does not have bells. Let me get a tape measure. This clock is 14 inches tall. I'm having camera issues. 10.5 inches wide. And 7.5 inches deep. It does not say Sonora on it. It will not say Sonora on it. The reason, how you could tell it's an offshoot of the Sonora, Seth Thomas Sonora, is this hole right here. This hole right here is for the extra movement, and I will show it to you in a second. And there are arrows that show you which way to wind it. Of course, I'm winding this one clockwise. I haven't wound it in a while. It's in my other room, and I hibernate in my bedroom most of the time because I hurt like hell. Excuse my French. And that is a pain. And then this one, you have to wind the arrows going that way. And this one is for the time. On the side, there's a nighttime shutoff lever. And let me open the door so I can show you what happens when you activate the nighttime shutoff lever. Or shutoff lever, it doesn't have to be nighttime. When you push this down, you see it's taking the chime rods away from the rods. This right here is a shipping lever. If you were to ship it, like if I was to sell it, you would activate this, and that way the rods don't move. And there's some directions on here. Never turn the hands backwards. I tell people that all the time, even for cuckoo clocks. You can turn the hands backwards on clocks at a certain time. But if the clock goes into warning and you turn the hand backwards, or if it's striking and you turn the hands backwards because it's not the right time, you will mess it up. Anyway, take the shipping lever off so the chimes can strike. And listen to this. That's all 4 hammers hitting. Now I think that sounds really good myself. Alright, as you can see, it's ticking away. Which, like I said, me and my friend were discussing how to take this movement out. And I've never worked on one. This is that extra movement that makes it a Sonora offshoot. Like I said, if it had bells, it would be called a Sonora clock. But the Sonora clocks, they have this extra movement, and they have bells instead of chime rods. But because this has got the extra movement, it's still a very collectible clock. But it's not an official Sonora clock. But anyway, to take that movement out, I was looking at it. There are screws on the side here, and let me get a light. There are screws right here. There are screws up there. There are screws down here at the bottom. There's screws on this side of this bracket. There's screws down there. But you can't really get to them. I would suggest taking the rods, chime rods out first. And maybe this nighttime shutoff lever here. And then you should be able to take this movement out. But this movement is connected to that movement. There's a butterfly nut right there. This is why they charge so much when they're working on when they're servicing your Sonora clocks, because there's a lot going on that you would have to take out and be careful about taking out. And, you have to check to see if there's bushing wear in this movement. And you have to check to see if there's bushing wear in the main movement. There's also, let me get something to point with. There's also a screw right here. A screw right here. And that's to take the dial off. There's another screw back in there for the dial. So, like I said, there's a lot going on with this movement. And like I said, in order to service this thing, you'd have to take the gongs out, or if it had bells, you would have to take the bells out. And then this movement And then that movement, as you can see, it's ticking away. It keeps really good time. I had to glue the label back on. But let me turn the hands so you can see this thing strike. And hear it strike. You notice it only uses 3 hammers. And the reason why it's only using 3 hammers, for the last hammer, this wire right here is broken. And that's why this hammer right here you see the wire, it's broken off. In order to fix this, I would have to take the gong rods out, the shipping lever out, and then this movement out. And I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to let it do its thing. You notice how it says never turn the hands backwards? Look, that was the half hour. So this should be a quarter till. What happened is I turned the hands backwards just a little bit, and then I advanced the hand to where it needs to be. That was 5 o'clock. And I'm lucky because it's just a little bit after 6 o'clock, so I can set the hand. That's quarter till, and there it went into warning. The governor fan moved just a little bit, which allowed it to go into warning. And I'm going to show you one last thing, and this is for all Westminster clocks. On the quarter after the hour, the gong rods are going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So on the quarter past the hour, for Westminster chimes only, it's going to go it's going to hit this rod first, and then the second rod, and then the fourth rod. And so if you have a clock for the Westminster chime on the quarter of the hour, if it's not going 1, 2, 3, 4, you have it set up wrong. And depending on your clock, it's depending on what you got to do to fix it. And now that is Westminster chimes. And I'm going to show you quarter after the hour. I got to fix this because it's set up wrong. Because it should go 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to get a Westminster chime clock and show you. So again, I have to figure out how to set this correctly because it's not set up right. This is a Bulova, a German-made bracket clock with Westminster chimes. It's called a bracket clock because of the design. There's several modifications, I guess you could say, to bracket clocks, but typically a bracket clock is going to have finials, 4 finials on the top. It might have another finial. They could be really carved and different designs, but it's called a bracket clock. It came with instructions on how to operate your clock. Unfortunately, it didn't come with a key. And this has got 5 hammers. It needs to be wound up, so let me go ahead and wind it up. So stand by. The type of escapement is called a balance escapement. And I want to show you that when I wind the time up, that balance is going to start turning on its own. Or it should turn on its own, I should say. You hear that? I think I have the mainspring is slipping as I wind it up. It's not catching the click. Might be slipping, but anyway, I gotta have to fix it. But this is called a balanced escapement. And stand by. Those balanced escapements are $64. Hermley balanced escapement through Time Savers. And so when you clean them, you don't want to put them in your clock cleaner. They make a dip. It's called one dip, and that's what you should use to clean them. And here's one dip: cleaning, polishing, and finishing supplies, non-flammable cleaner and rinse for gummed and dirty hairsprings, jewels, palette stones. Protects and cleans, used in well-ventilated area because it contains trichloroethylene, which is very dangerous. I used it in the military. 8 ounces is $25. And so let's get back to the Westminster chimes. 1/4 the hour. Let me turn these hands. Those hammers need to be adjusted big time. You notice only the first 2 hammers are being used for the hour. Because it has 5 hammers, it doesn't use all hammers for the hour. Alright. This is off too. In order to fix it, you take this little gear right here out. Okay? Or you could take this gear off. And then you would rotate this until it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. I thought this one was set right. I'm probably getting some people who think I'm full of crap, but 1/4 the hour, the hammers go 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know if you remember seeing this. This is my Yuhan's, a clock that I got off of GW, and I was the only bidder. I paid like $24 to include shipping for this clock. This also has a shipping clamp on it right here. But I'm going to show you on the 1/4 the hour. 1/4 the hour just played. Here comes the half hour. 3/4 till the hour. And I want you to listen to something. Wouldn't that sound better than what I'm fixing to show you? This bracket, which has these wires for the hammer, there's only 3 holes in this bracket. That means only 3 hammers are lifted on the hour. Now this is the hour. You see the wheel that has the pins in it? That's what lifts the hammers. And this next step is going to be the 1/4 of an hour. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1/4 past the hour. So this Westminster chime, 1/4 past the hour. And if it's not playing 1, 2, 3, 4, then your setup is wrong and you should fix it. This is a posting by my group member, Michael Georgia, who collects Sonora clocks. And I'm going to read it to you, and it's a long information, but it's a history on Sonora clock. He says, this is actually a bona fide Seth Thomas Sonora. There's actually, though, a very few Sonoras that were not made by Seth Thomas. Initially, the gentleman that created and applied for and won the Sonora patent was experienced with music boxes, and so his main focus was the better quality sound that his technology could produce by means of much better tuning of the bells. So the bells were much better at achieving notes on a musical scale, and the other technology was the resonator box that would seemingly amplify the sound but actually makes the notes resonate. This was groundbreaking at the time. European clockmakers were able to bring the Westminster melody played every 1/4 hour on a 3-train movement clock, and this was competition for Seth Thomas, so he was already hard at work to get that in his clocks. But this Sonora technology was going to decimate Seth unless he could secure the technology by licensing the Sonora technology in his new 1/4 hour clocks to come out. If Seth could combine the 1/4 hour and the Sonora tech, it would be a home run. Anyway, Seth was already toying with the 1/4 hour stuff, and Seth was doing it as a modular design that could be added to a time and strike movement to make it 1/4 hour. Westminster clock had yet to release it. This Sonora guy had already made a very few 1/4 hour Sonora clocks by calibrating with, I think, Waterbury. And Michael Georgia bought a Waterbury clock with the Sonora technology, and I'm going to try to find that. But he goes on, I may be wrong on if it was Waterbury or not, but it was a smaller company. And for a very limited run, not really sold under Waterbury, but more showcasing the upstart Sonora name brand technology. At any rate, these were 10-bell clocks, way out as far as price range. Hardly anyone could afford to have one, and like I said, very few were made, less than 100. It was made as a proof of the technology. An old man did it, turn up the heat for old Seth Thomas. So Seth paid the price for the licensing, thus screwing Waterbury out of being able to produce anymore and securing that Seth Thomas and Sonora would become synonymous. Now Seth had to figure out how to adopt and adapt the quarter-hour movement so that it could retain the modular design in addition to higher-end models, but still be able to produce his lower-end time and strike only models. So this is achieved by making the second movement a standalone movement that can be added to a time and strike movement and make it a higher end quarter-hour strike. Seth Thomas adopted the Sonora movement so that it could be produced on an assembly line process and was interference with his already proven and in play 89 time and strike movement, thus ending the life of the 89 another 10 years. In fact, Seth Thomas had significantly adapted the movement that Sonora would become an important note later on. And here he's showing pictures of a Sonora chime. It has a 4-bell movement. I'm trying to find the Waterbury maybe it was New Haven that had the Sonora chimes in it. Here's some of his clocks that he picked up.
It's just like scuffed stuff. A piece of tape.
It's a very beautiful clock.
Still has the nice beveled glass, so that's all original glass. I mean, the face is absolutely beautiful, and I think this is it's a rather large key. It's super huge. I think that's actually the original key because I've never seen one that big, and it misses the door here. So I think that's the reason for this bigger key is to miss that door. This is when you're here.
I'm not going to play this entire video.
Winding it. So, all in all, it was missing its pendulum bob, and the stencil is basically a sticker that got shellacked over. It's not actually inlaid wood on the 2000 or the 70, 71, 72, 73, the 118, 113 movement, I should say. So, all in all, it was missing its pendulum bob, so I went to a local clock shop here in Arizona, and I picked up a $15 original pendulum bob. The movement looks a little dirty, and I see one issue. Let me show you this one issue that I got. So when you play the bells, and then that last bell just gets stuck up in the air, so it's not finishing the
I think it's an 8-bell movement,
which is just a matter of advancing one of these gears in here, like one tooth count.
It's a beautiful clock.
Drop that hammer.
I'm gonna add this video in this in this video, I'm going to put a link to it in the description. I'm not going to play it. That would be violating copyright rules. But it's the guy that Michael Georgia takes his clocks to get them repaired. Rapi Onsurlian, I'm probably butchering that name, but it tells you about the history of the Seth Thomas Sonora clock. And here it says Rapi is explaining the licensing relationship that Seth Thomas had with Sonora chimes. Real quick, when you're transporting a clock, you either take the pendulum off, like if you're moving a clock to dust or to work on a clock or just moving it from one place to the other, you either take the pendulum off. Myself, I tilt the clock forward. That way the pendulum is up against the movement. And that way I've never had one get out of beat by tilting the clock forward and then holding it that way while I transport it. Now, if I'm going to transport it from my house to somebody else's house, I'm taking the pendulum off and doing it the right way. But this pendulum would be kind of hard to reach to get to, so in order to move it, like I brought it from another room to this room, and as you can see, it's ticking away. It's not out of beat, but all you have to do is tilt it so the pendulum hits the rear plate. I messaged my friend Michael Georgia asking him to post a video of that clock that has the Sonora chimes in it. The resonator box is what helps make the Sonora chimes. But anyway, I'll add that to this video. I didn't want to get into this video in this section, or this problem for this Sonora chime video, but this is the way that you would adjust your Westminster chimes if it's not playing 1, 2, 3, 4 in order on those hammers. 1, 2, 3, 4, as I was discussing. On a quarter of an hour, it's going to play 1, 2, 3, 4. You would take this wheel here off. There's a little clip, but you would take that off, and I'm going to do that now. Before you take that wheel off, you want to put your minute hand on 15 minutes after. With that wheel off, you're going to rotate this wheel until you see the hammers play in order 1, 2, 3, 4. I just did it. So, like I said, you rotate this wheel. One, 2, 3, 4. So we just struck the quarter of the hour. And you want to make sure that the hammers are completely down. And then you put this wheel back on. And put this clip back on that holds it. So I'm going to do that now. And when you put that wheel back on and put that clip on, you don't want to allow it to turn because if it turns while you're putting it on, the hammers are going to change position. So now it just got through striking a quarter past the hour because I had the hands on a quarter past the hour. So now this next step will be the half hour. Again, these hammers need adjusted. 3/4 of the hour. And the hour. I'm going to play the quarter of the hour, and it's going to go, on this particular clock, it goes from the rear to the front. 1, 2, 3, 4, in order. So now, this chime is set up for Westminster chimes. So some clocks are going to be different on how to adjust the chimes, like that Sonora clock I showed you. A Sonora brand I showed you. It doesn't say Sonora on it. It's got rods instead of bells. But most clocks, all you have to do is take this wheel off. And then you rotate this wheel until you see, like I said, you got the hand at a quarter past the hour. And it didn't strike 1, 2, 3, 4 like it's supposed to. So you take this wheel off, and then you rotate this big wheel until you see 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you don't rotate that wheel no more. You hold that wheel, you put the center wheel on along with its E-clip, and then the Westminster chime is set up properly. When it plays 1, 2, sorry about that. It's set up properly when it plays in order 1, 2, 3, 4. Or on the other clock I showed you, it plays 1, 2, 3, 4, and the last one, being toward the dial, is the last one that plays. And this is only on Westminster chimes. I don't know how St. Michael's or the other chimes are set up. And so if you have a triple chime clock and it's not sounding properly, set it to Westminster chimes and see if the hammers are playing in order 1, 2, 3, 4 on the quarter past the hour. And if they're not, you take this center wheel off. Again, on the Westminster chimes, it doesn't matter if you got a triple chime clock, you set it to Westminster chimes, you take the center wheel off, you adjust this wheel until you see 1, 2, 3, 4, you put that wheel back on, and then when you put it to St. Michael's or Whittington or whatever other tune it is, it will be set up or it should be set up, because it's set up for Westminster chimes, so it should be set up for the other chimes. Give me a thumbs up. Leave me some comments. And may God bless. Hopefully you can see this. This is the clock that I was telling you about that Michael Georgia had bought. This is a Sonora setup in a New Haven clock. This was before Seth Thomas and the guy that invented the Sonora system made an agreement. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. I hope that you learned things. You probably learned that I will probably screw up my Seth Thomas Sonora clock if I take all those parts out. I'm gonna need to later on down the road, I got way too many other projects, but I'm gonna need to fix the timing of the chimes so the Westminster chime on the quarter of the hour goes 1, 2, 3, 4 in order. If the hammers are jumping around, if it goes 1, then, that is wrong on the quarter of the hour. Only on Westminster chimes. So anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Please leave me a thumbs up. Leave me some comments. Please subscribe to my channel. And you probably learned that is why it costs so much money to get one of these clocks serviced, because of all the components that you have to take out of the clock. 2 different movements. So it's a possibility that you have to put bushings in both movements, depending on when the last time the clock was actually serviced. And so, anyway, until next time, may God bless each and every one of you.